What is up, Go Nation? I'm back with another video. Today, I'm going to be reacting to new Rockstar's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 breakdown. I can't wait for this movie. It's up there, like, top 3 of my most anticipated. I'm going back to school. It's just that simple. It's one of my most anticipated films of the year. There's going to be tears. There's going to be fears. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. Before we react to the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We on the road to 100 subs. Anyways, let's get to the video.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the new trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 from the Super Bowl, teasing a movie whose plot is still largely a mystery. But it seems like everyone's gonna die, except this little monster whose name is apparently Blurp. Blurp is the sound that I make when I see a movie I really want to like, but then when the credits roll, it ends up being a blur. But I'm sure that won't be the case with this movie. Better not. Let's break down this trailer frame by frame for the interesting and heartbreaking details that you might have missed. And thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's vid. More about them in a minute. The trailer opens with this atypically grounded moment. Peter Quill drowning his sorrows with booze alone at the same bar where he drank by himself on Nowhere in the Guardians Holiday Special. In that special, he was at least cheered up by Mantis giving him a good Christmas and revealing they were half siblings, both of them children of the celestial Ego. Now he seems bummed again. Contextually, from this trailer at least, missing Gamora. The music is Rainbow's 1979 Since You've Been Gone, and we know James Gunn's song selection is always thematically and emotionally resonant to the characters. In this case, the speaker of the song is haunted by nightly nightmares of a breakup, which on the surface seems to refer to Peter and Gamora, but this opening shot, it's not from Peter's perspective, it's from Rocket's point of view. We do not see his face. And from that, we can infer that Rocket is really the heartbroken one. He has been broken ever since Lila has been gone. But the second verse of the song refers to a cruel breakup letter. Your poison letter, your telegram, just goes to show you don't give a damn. Just a reminder that all of James Gunn's Guardians movies are letters from Quill's parents, the 2 mixtapes from his mother Meredith, and now the Zune left to him by Yondu. I wonder if in this third movie, Peter's depression causes him to see these messages as toxic, poison letters that just make things worse for him. But look closely at Rocket's hand in the shot. I think he's actually bringing Peter that Zune, and Peter may not be in a place in this scene where he wants to hear it. We do know from the previous trailer that he does listen to the Zune at a critical moment while he's standing on the bridge of the Bowie. Also, by the way, Rainbow's Since You've Been Gone was also featured in the soundtrack of the Guardians of the Galaxy video game. The tipped over bottle that Peter drinks from looks like it has scroll writing on the label, though it's just hard to make out what exactly it says. I just love how the trailer editing syncs Peter firing his blasters with the chords of the song.
I'm Star-Lord.
The holiday special also confirmed that these blasters were Christmas gifts to young Peter from Yondu. Peter reminds us that Gamora died in Avengers Infinity War, but then returned in Avengers Endgame as a 2014 era variant of herself when Thanos' forces traveled to the present. This Gamora has no memory of her past with Peter, anything that happened in those 2 Guardians movies. So when we love someone, do we love the memories that we share together, the things that we did to win each other over? Or is there some mystic force in our souls that binds us together independent from memory? Gamora shoves Peter into some navigation or control screens. They're both wearing these red-orange jumpsuits, which is what they are wearing in that mysterious bright location. So Gamora might not be generally being a dick when she pushes Peter, but it could just be some rightful frustration over his mission mistakes. These jumpsuits have a vertical collar strip with 4 symbols, the same symbol on every collar. They look like stick figures with nodes on the end. I guess they kind of look like those homeomorphically irreducible trees, you know, the math problem from Good Will Hunting, but I assume this is some kind of chain code for visitors at this facility. This pink-skinned woman with them in the elevator is actress Daniela Melchior, whom James Gunn said would be in this movie after she played Ratcatcher 2 in his DC film The Suicide Squad. She has a similar nodal configuration on her name tag. Now I have to imagine this is an important character if Daniela Melchior is playing her, and I think there's some connection between her pink skin and all of these name tags to a theory that I'm going to talk about at the end of this breakdown. Notice how Nebula has a new arm upgrade, a chainmail-like substance that she did not have in the Guardians Holiday Special, so this is a recent addition. Later on we see why. This weave allows her to shapeshift her arm into any metallic shape, kind of like the T-1000 in Terminator 2, but also it looks like the structure of the Sentinels in X-Men Days of Future Past. And Peter is carrying this diamond patterned sphere that we see him carrying in other shots in this location, presumably an object of some importance. Okay, we find ourselves in the cockpit of the Bowie, the Guardians' new ship after the Milano in the first 2 Guardians films, and the Benatar in Infinity War and Endgame, this one obviously named after David Bowie. They are approaching this Earth-like planet, mostly ocean covered. There are some polar ice caps, but as we saw in the first trailer, this seems to be Earth, but it's actually the High Evolutionary's artificial planet, counter Earth. Counter Earth is the name of the planet in the comics that he locates like a half millisecond out of dimensional sync with Earth, whatever that means. But here in this movie, he's populated this planet with these animalistic hybrids like Rocket, or maybe what he initially hoped Rocket would become. We know Rocket and Lila are from Half-World, but it seems like they're part of the High Evolutionary's experimental new men. He's known for creating these hybrids like Bova, the cow creature who nursed both Pietro and Wanda Maximoff. Now here we see two different shots, two different eras of the High Evolutionary. A wide shot on his ship with his scientists where he's younger, he has hair, and then this close-up of his present-day form where he's bald and has his facial skin tucked back to give himself, I guess, a creepy facelift. I mean, you gotta keep yourself young somehow, right? So we are gonna see him in his early years when he created Rocket, and then in his later years where I guess they're gonna reunite. Yes, a reminder that the High Evolutionary is considered Marvel's top geneticist, a colleague of the X-Men villain Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister. So the Bowie arrives through this hexagonal UNTN grid to approach the red cubic structure, what I assume is a High Evolutionary ship. We know this is gonna be in atmosphere in other trailer clips. I love how each hexagon in the grid is made up of hundreds of smaller hexagons, as if to suggest each one is a different exact point in known space that you can be directed to. Wyndham declares that his sacred mission is to create the perfect society. Sacred mission? Sacred timeline? I don't know, could just be coincidental religious fanaticism for their respective causes, but it is possible that these two were colleagues, or at least aware of each other. Oh god, we see Rocket's tiny body in restraints within that chamber of the room where younger Wyndham strolled through earlier, and here you can see Wyndham on the left looking down at Rocket. I hate to notice things like this, but Rocket is totally trembling in those restraints. Now remember, Rocket is not a raccoon. He's just a space rodent that Wyndham engineered, matching the likeness of Earth's raccoon. We see a close-up of 89P13 being tattooed. This number showed up on Rocket's booking screen when he got arrested on Xandar in the 2014 film, and now it looks like it's being tattooed somewhere on Rocket's skin or his skull. Ugh. MT actually had an interesting theory that 89 could stand for 1989, 1 year after Peter Quill got abducted by the Ravagers, and I know 1989 doesn't necessarily apply because Terran years aren't really used for the interplanetary calendar in the MCU, but 1989 could be the year Wyndham set his 80s suburban counter-Earth in, because they're all wearing 80s clothes and drive 80s cars. And Rocket confirms that Wyndham didn't care about a perfect society, he just hated the way things are, which is a fascinating commentary on perfectionism. It's not about realistically attaining an ideal, it's about an inner failure to accept one's reality. Nothing can ever be good enough. Let's move on. As in the first trailer, 5 of the Guardians, Mantis, Drax, Peter, Nebula, and Gamora, spacewalk in these multicolored suits that I know everyone thinks are based on Among Us, and the color scheme does match that, but James Gunn confirmed that these are actually nods to the spacesuits in 2001: A Space Odyssey, which also is the idea behind our Vosmonaut logo and our new collection of Deep Dive merch, which you can get at nerdriot.shop. This Friday, February 17th, will be the launch of our new channel, The Deep Dive, in which you're going to be able to see 5 awesome videos on launch day, including my live breakdown of Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, so subscribe over at Deep Dive NR, and really the best way you can support our entire network here at New Rockstars is to get your hands on our nerdy merch, like this Quantumania inspired shirt, nerdriot.shop. Now this massy form that they're spacewalking down onto looks fleshy, it has hairs, and as I speculated before, this might be celestial tissue, part of the corpse of Nowhere from the rest of his body, or maybe another celestial being picked apart or artificially created. That also ties into my theory that I'll get to at the end of this video. Peter and Groot face a smug-looking Herbert Wyndham in a brief shot of Kraglin as he holds the Yaka arrow in perfect alignment with his head fin, a kind of meditation as he tries to become one with the arrow as chaos unfolds around him on Nowhere. There's one quick, really weird shot of a figure crawling up a catwalk or a ladder using mechanized exoskeleton arms. As these bright chambers open around them, we might see the broken pieces of this apparatus a little later in the trailer. Wyndham orders, "Incinerate them!" Probably what he, as a younger scientist, planned to do with Rocket and Lila and other lab experiments that he has no longer any use for. Adam Warlock shows up. This is what Aisha was brewing up in that golden cocoon in the Guardians Volume 2 post-credit scene. He's a much bigger character in the comics who has one of the Infinity Stones plugged into his head. Here it just looks like a gem or a bolt of some kind. Here we see Adam flying through this neighborhood that explodes around him. And I'm pretty sure this is the 80s suburb that the Guardians land on in the first trailer. He seems to be pursuing Gamora, carrying an incapacitated Rocket back to the Bowie, telling me that the Guardians came to this planet to try to rescue Rocket. What was he doing there to begin with? Presumably to find out more about his past. Okay, Swole Groot drops from a higher platform in Nowhere to stomp on and tackle Adam Warlock. Though, notice how he only gets Adam in like a loose headlock? I think Adam isn't gonna be too affected by this pounce. Rocket and Lila have a laugh in their cages. In this flashback, Lila is the otter type creature and the love of Rocket's life. Her name showed up on his booking screen in the 2014 film as well. You can see she has a mechanical arm holding onto her belly as they laugh. But notice how Rocket's head is now wider, now more shaped as we know him as an adult, compared to the more narrow shape before his surgery. And by the way, in that shot where you can see Wyndham's hand reaching in to grab young Rocket, anybody who has ever trained a rescue dog knows that you should never reach in and pet a dog with your hand like that. It can trigger the dog. You always reach an underhand like that. Obviously, Herbert Wyndham doesn't give a shit about that. But either way, the changing shape of Rocket's head tells us that it was intentional to change his skull shape to make it more humanoid, to make it more like a lollipop on a bipedal body, which is totally unnatural for a raccoon. We get various shots of Quill and Swole Groot back to back, shooting up Wyndham's group.
Swole Groot's getting those games.
Special, and will once again be voiced by Maria Bakalova. Quick shot of Peter lying across Gamora's body as she holds this furry little guy. We don't know much about him other than James Gunn tweeting his name is Blurp. I assume this is another one of Wyndham's creations. Now during the shootout, Rocket climbs up Groot's shoulder, recreating the famous pose from the shootout in the Kiln prison in the first Guardians film. And Peter and Groot attack Wyndham's men. If you look closely, Peter has just attached an explosive or something to the butt of the guy on the right. I love it. Moving on. So Adam Warlock locks glowing sabers with Drax as the heat seems to affect the side of Drax's face. Actually, early in the trailer, when he seemed to be charred on that side of his head, it might have come from this duel. The Guardians all emotionally salute. They look like they're at the end of a battle. They're pretty roughed up. Maybe they're saluting one of their own fallen Guardians. Drax and the others riot in this white facility, throwing these men in these fleshy beef suits against this device that has yellow fluid flowing through it. Now remember, when the Collector was still mining nowhere for spinal fluid, that fluid was the same color. Yellow was also the color of the blood of the Obelisk that Drax cut through in Volume 2. I wonder if this whole facility could be an operation to either build an artificial Celestial that Wyndham can control, or to use Celestial tissue to give himself the powers to originate life with the power of a god. Notice as Drax fights these guys, you can totally see Wyndham on all of the screens there. As Quill has his armor on Nebula, on his sleeve you can see a patch with some alien writing, and then a logo that is in the shape of an X with an interesting one of these shapes. You know what that is. But the text isn't clear enough to translate, but I have a good idea of what it might say. More on that in a bit. The High Evolutionary, with his legs crossed, floats down this exploding hallway. His purple suit is illuminated. Now, the High Evolutionary in the comics fashions himself a mentally evolved life form, but I think here he might just be using a kind of neurokinetic suit that allows him to levitate like this. This tech isn't that dissimilar to what Kang uses in Quantumania. And then we get various shots of all the main characters crying, watching someone leave, looking generally heartbroken. And again, this shot from the first trailer of Peter screaming in agony with a metal tube next to his face. Someone is dying right in front of him. And the Bowie blasts away from whatever this fleshy structure is in its central orifice, so they might have been either on a heist or on a mission to destroy this thing. Either way, probably to foil Wyndham's overall plan. On to the final clip.
Whoever it was that you were in love with, it sounds more like her.
Her? That's
Do
ridiculous.
not bring me into this.
Don't even.
Knock it off!
What? Damn, our man Quill is thirsty. The way he looks at Nebula is a lot like the way Thor looked at him in Thor Love and Thunder to show what it looks like when you love someone.
Remember what I told you? You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love. They'll tell you exactly who you are. All right, bye.
Nebula reminds us that, of course, her black eyes were implants given to her by Thanos as a torture method. And so, giving herself that shape-shifting weave arm might be a step for Nebula back toward owning her own body. I love it. But the context we are overlooking here is that they are totally having this debate while Gamora is holding someone at gunpoint, someone off screen. Maybe Daniela Melchior's character who they were just with, or maybe someone else that we know. Why does Melchior's character have pink skin? Could she be related to, or maybe be the same type of assistant as Karina, the aide to Tenelier Tavon, the Collector? Could all of these patches on their uniform and jumpsuits translate to Tavon Mining Corporation, or whatever new LLC he's filed his business license under? Because it's still a pretty big mystery why the Collector would be willing to part ways with Nowhere. But we know he survived because we saw his ship flying by the frame in the opening shot of the Loki Season 1 finale. So, did Tenelier Tavon find a new chunk of celestial mass to mine, and that's why he sold the empty husk of Nowhere to the Guardians? Much like Daniel Plainview selling off oil baron land to Eli after he had already drank that milkshake. Another reminder to subscribe to our new channel, The Deep Dive, launching this Friday with five premium videos that you are gonna love. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Another great video from New Rockstars. Man, I cannot wait for this movie. It's gonna be so sad and kind of depressing. But anyways, guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Leave a comment or two. You already know what to do. Go Nation. I'm out.